OpenAI just swapped out the brain inside ChatGPT. No live stream, no keynote, no big stage reveal. Just a blog post. And suddenly, hundreds of millions of people were talking to a different AI than they were the day before. They call it GPT-5.5 Instant. OpenAI says the new default model hallucinates 52.5% less on high-stakes prompts involving medicine, law, and finance. It gives shorter answers, uses fewer unnecessary emojis, understands more, remembers more, and can personalize from past chats, files, and, if you connect it, Gmail. But the real story is not just that ChatGPT got smarter. The real story is that OpenAI quietly changed the default AI layer for the mainstream internet. On May 5, 2026, GPT-5.5 Instant replaced GPT-5.3 Instant as the default ChatGPT model. That means when most users open ChatGPT and start typing, this is now the model answering them. GPT-5.3 Instant had only been the default for about 2 months. That is the pace now. The AI people use for work, school, coding, research, writing, business decisions, and personal advice can change underneath them in weeks. Most users will never check. They do not read model cards. They do not compare benchmarks. They do not open the model picker. They just type. So when OpenAI changes the default, it changes the AI experience for hundreds of millions of people quietly. That is why this matters. OpenAI's pitch is simple. GPT 5.5 Instant is more accurate, more concise, and more personalized. It produced 52.5% fewer hallucinated claims than GPT 5.3 Instant on high-stakes prompts, and 37.3% fewer inaccurate claims on difficult conversations users had already flagged for factual errors. That matters because when ChatGPT gets a poem wrong, nobody cares. When it gets legal, medical, financial, or technical information wrong, that can hurt people. The model is also shorter. OpenAI says GPT 5.5 Instant uses 30.2% fewer words and 29.2% fewer lines than GPT 5.3 Instant. Translation: they finally told the model to stop writing a TED Talk every time someone asks a simple question. And yes, OpenAI specifically mentioned fewer gratuitous emojis, which means somewhere inside OpenAI, there was probably a meeting where someone said, "The model is too sparkly." But the bigger shift is memory. GPT 5.5 Instant is better at using your past chats, uploaded files, and connected Gmail to personalize answers. OpenAI is also rolling out memory sources, which can show some of the context used to personalize a response, and let users delete or correct outdated information. That sounds useful, and it is. Nobody wants to explain the same project 500 times. Nobody wants to keep saying, "Remember, I prefer this coding language, this writing style, this business model, this workflow." Personalization saves time, but it also creates lock-in. The better ChatGPT knows you, the worse every blank model feels. A fresh model feels dumb, not because it is dumb, but because it does not know your context. That is the moat. Not just intelligence, but memory, history, and your unfinished work. My opinion? The hallucination numbers are the headline. The memory system is the product strategy. Now zoom out. GPT 5.5 Instant is only the consumer-facing piece. The bigger GPT 5.5 rollout started in April, when OpenAI released GPT 5.5 for professional work: coding, research, spreadsheets, documents, tool use, software operation, and long-running tasks. OpenAI says GPT 5.5 matches GPT 5.4's per-token latency while performing at a much higher intelligence level. That is the hard part. Bigger models are usually slower. This one, according to OpenAI, got smarter without giving up speed. The benchmarks are serious too. OpenAI reports GPT 5.5 scoring 82.7% on Terminal Bench 2.0, 84.9% on GDP Val, 78.7% on OS World Verified, and 81.8% on CyberGym. The model is not just answering questions. It is becoming better at acting across tools. That is the business angle. OpenAI is not only competing to make the smartest chatbot, it is competing to own the layer where work gets done. And here is where developers started paying attention. GPT 5.5 is not cheap. OpenAI says API access is priced at $5 per million input tokens and $30 per million output tokens. GPT 5.5 Pro is even higher. OpenRouter looked at real migration data and found that even though GPT 5.5 used fewer completion tokens on long prompts, Actual costs still rose between 49% and 92% for users switching from GPT 5.4. That is a huge jump. And here is my read. This is not a pricing mistake. This is a pricing strategy. First, the product becomes useful. Then it becomes default. Then it becomes infrastructure. Then the price changes. But pricing is not the most alarming part. The most alarming part is cybersecurity. The UK AI Security Institute tested GPT 5.5 on cyber capabilities and called it one of the strongest models they have tested. It became only the second model to solve one of their multi-step cyber attack simulations end-to-end. The first was Anthropic's Claude Mythos preview. On expert-level cyber tasks, GPT 5.5 achieved a 71.4% average pass rate, compared with 68.6% for Mythos preview, 52.4% for GPT 5.4, and 48.6% for Opus 4.7. These were not simple password checker tasks. The tests included reverse engineering, exploit development, cryptography, malware unpacking, embedded firmware analysis, and vulnerability research against modern mitigations. Important caveat: this does not mean someone can open ChatGPT and instantly run a 32-step enterprise attack. Public deployments include safeguards, monitoring, restrictions, and classifiers. But the capability frontier has moved, and the uncomfortable part is how it moved. These abilities are not emerging because labs are building hacking bots. They are emerging because models are getting better at coding, reasoning, planning, tool use, persistence, and autonomy. The same skills that help defend software can also attack it. That is the dual-use problem. And yes, because this is AI in 2026, there is also a goblin subplot. OpenAI published an explanation called Where the Goblins Came From, after GPT 5.5 in Codex showed an odd habit of using goblin metaphors. The company says it came from reward incentives around the nerdy personality. That sounds ridiculous, but it reveals something serious. AI personality is not decoration. It is behavior design. Small reward signals can become habits, and at ChatGPT scale, habits become user experience. So here is the opinionated take. GPT 5.5 Instant is not just a model update. It is a default layer update. OpenAI is changing the intelligence layer, the memory layer, the pricing layer, and the risk layer all at once. For normal users, it looks like better ChatGPT. For developers, it looks like higher API costs. For businesses, it looks like stronger automation. For security people, it looks like another jump in dual-use cyber capability. For OpenAI, it looks like the next step toward making ChatGPT the place where work starts. That is the real story. Not goblins, not emojis, not even hallucinations. The story is default control. So what should you do? If you use ChatGPT, enjoy the upgrade, but check your memory settings and connected apps. Do not connect Gmail casually just because the button is there. Connected context is powerful, but it is still context from your life. If you are a developer, do not build your whole product assuming the best frontier model will stay cheap. It will not. And if you are in cybersecurity, the AISI report deserves attention, not panic. Preparation. OpenAI shipped a genuinely better model. The hallucination numbers are real. The shorter answers are real. The personalization is real. The price jump is real. The cyber capability tests are real. And yes, somehow, the goblins are real too. But GPT 5.5 Instant is the consumer-facing edge of something bigger. AI moving from something you ask questions to into something that remembers, acts, prices, routes, defends, writes, codes, and makes decisions across your digital life. That is useful. That is valuable. And that is exactly why it deserves scrutiny. Use GPT 5.5 Instant like a scalpel, not a friend. And maybe check your memory settings before you ask it to read your life. If this helped, hit like, subscribe for more AI news without the press release voice, and drop a comment. Did GPT 5.5 Instant feel different to you, or did you not even notice the swap? Stay sharp. Jane Sterling, Sterling Intelligence.